Measurement. Voltage is measured with a voltmeter. Voltmeters are connected in parallel and measure the difference in potential between 2 points. So we have a circuit here with a resistor, and we have the voltage measured by the voltmeter in parallel with the resistor. Since circuits in parallel have the same voltage and a voltmeter has very high resistance, very little current passes through it. That means that it has little effect on the circuit. The overwhelming majority of the current is going through the resistor, and very little is going through the voltmeter. An expanded view of the picture on the previous page. The symbol for voltmeter is V with a circle on it. This is an analog voltmeter, which are mostly used in labs. It has 3 terminals. The black terminal will be the negative terminal, and the red terminals are each a positive terminal. Each terminal consists of a metal opening surrounded by a plastic screw. Banana plugs can be plugged into these terminals, just like the rheostat, or alligator clips can be clipped directly in. The screws can also be loosened to attach alligator clips at the bottom of the terminal. Or sometimes you have clips like this, right? And that would go around the metal rod that's inside this plastic thing. And then you would tighten down the black or the red screw on that to hold that clip in place. The display right here shows that we're measuring things in volts. Now, why do we have 3 positive terminals, the red terminals? They each measure a different scale. Only one can be used at a time. That goes up to 3 volts, that will measure up to 10, and that will measure up to 15. Maybe you can see here how the scales are different here. You have 2 different numbers up here and a different one down here depending on the scale. And you look over to the right, and that gives you your maximum value of the voltage, which will match one of these plugs. Once a scale is selected, readings must be taken from the correct side of the meter. That's what we showed on the previous one. You have 3 different numbers for each tick mark. Look at the right side of the meter. For example, the 3 volt scale, it's the second digit from the top of the scale, right there. So all measurements will be made in reference to the highlighted marks on the voltmeter. It is very important to note that the voltmeter should not be connected to a power supply larger than the scale that the voltmeter is set to measure. Doing so may result in damage to the voltmeter. To help prevent this error, always select the highest voltage scale or terminal first. So in this case, that would be the 15 volts. Then move to lower voltage scales as necessary for a more precise reading. Suppose you are reading the 15 volt scale highlighted on the right. And you can see hopefully the little yellow marks up there. Every 10 lines represents 5 volts. This means that each line represents 0.5 volts. That is 5 volts per 10 lines, and you divide that, you get 0.5 volts. Since it's possible to estimate when the reading is halfway between the lines, this example enables us to read to the nearest 0.25 volts. This represents the limit of our measurements. Switching to a lower scale enables you to make more precise readings as each line represents a smaller voltage increment. Current is measured using an ammeter. Ammeters are placed in series with the circuit. So you have the current going through like this. In order not to interfere with this current, the ammeter has a very low resistance, so the current stays pretty much constant going through this resistor. The symbol for the ammeter is a capital A surrounded by a circle and put into the circuit like so, in series with what you're measuring. Here we have an analog ammeter that is frequently used in labs. Like the voltmeter, the black terminal is a negative terminal, and we have 2 positive red terminals here. This tells us we're measuring in milliamps, and this will measure to a maximum of 50. This will have a maximum of 500 milliamps. So let's say we're measuring a current that is 20 milliamps. You always start with the biggest scale so you don't hurt the meter, and then you find out that the needle is going to point somewhere over here. Now that's very hard to read whether it's 20, 21, 19, 18, but since it's 20 milliamps, thereabouts, which is less than 50, switch to the next scale, the lower scale. Now you can clearly see whether it's 20 whether it's 21, whether it's 19, and you can even say it's 20.5 or 21.5, so you can make a more precise measurement with this scale. This is a more practical device. It's called a multimeter. It can measure current and voltage one at a time, and it can also measure resistance.